Okay, so we were talking about this formula. Fahrenheit equals 9/5 Celsius plus 32. And we used the points 0, 32. 0 was the Celsius, Fahrenheit was the 32. That's the temperature at which water freezes, so that's freezing. And then we use the points 100 for Celsius, 212 for Fahrenheit, and that's boiling. Okay, so if I wanted to create a table of values just to figure out, okay, all the different Celsiuses and Fahrenheits that possibly are available, right? There's actually an infinite number. I mean, probably not that exist in real life, but you know, there's going to be an infinite number of different degrees. Because F is the dependent variable, we're going to call that y equals 9/5 is our slope. And then we'll use the variable x. X is our independent variable, plus 32. What is 32 called in this equation? Anybody know? We have the slope and the y. Yes, the beginning happens on the y-axis, so we call that the y-intercept. Okay, so if I wanted to create a table of values, on my calculator, I have this button that says table. If we push it, you're going to get a y equals, okay, and you'll want to clear that one out. So just push clear one time. And then you should have the y equals still there. Okay, so the y equals is still there. We're going to type in the rest of the formula. So we got 9/5. How do I type in 9/5? Well, it's just a fraction. That little fraction bar is a divide. So basically 9/5 is 9 divided by 5. Or you have a button here that has n over d, which is numerator over denominator. So if you like how that looks better, it's going to give you the same result. You could push n over d and then put in 5. You'll have to use your arrow button to put in, or sorry, 9/5. Okay, and then you'll have to use your arrow button to get out of the fraction. Now there's only one button on here that will give you the variable x, and that's down here where it has a little tiny x and it has some other different variables here, but we're just going to use x. Okay, so you don't want to use the multiply button, you just want to use the variable x. Then we'll go plus 32 and then push enter. So on your calculator, it's going to give you several different options. It asks you where you want to start. And I liked your idea of starting at 0, the y-intercept. Okay, so if I just change that to 0 as a starting place, that will be good. Now it asks me how I want to step. If I step by 50, that means it's going to go x is 50, x is 100, x is 150. So really my step, we want just 1. You know, but let's say you wanted to go all the way to 100, you wouldn't really want to count by 1. So that's why you could change that step. So now I go to the next one, auto versus ask. If you put in ask, you're going to have to tell the table what values of x to put in. If you keep it selected on auto, it's going to auto generate by plugging in x is 1, x is 2, x is 3. Okay, so that's auto. Now we push OK, we push enter again. So I'm just using enter. And you see that my table started at 0. What was the point? What is that telling me? 0. Ah, yes, it's telling me 0, 32. Right, is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. If I scroll down, these are all different degrees, right? 10 degrees Celsius is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's another ordered pair, 10, 50. Okay. All of these are different ordered pairs. They actually give them to us as fractions. Notice these 15 degrees is 59.
So there's not one. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. What was your question? I'm just getting the whole number of points. Notice how they're all the ones that don't have fractions in the answer are all, what do you notice about the C values? They're all, the C values are multiples of 5, because here, when we have a fraction divided by 5, when you divide a number by 5, it goes in evenly, right? If you divide a multiple of 5, that's why on the table, all the multiples of 5, there's another one, 25, have no fraction or no decimal because the 5 divided into it evenly. So
That's what that /5 means?
that's what that /5 means, because here, if you have, here's one 24, which 5 doesn't go into evenly, it is 376 fifths. 376 fifths. They're giving it to you as a fraction, but that's really an improper fraction. That's a decimal. So it should be a little over 70. It should be, or sorry, it should be a little under 71. If we clear this, just clear everything, okay, and go back to your calculator function, you can go 376 divided by 5, and you'll see that that's 75.2. Okay, is a more friendly number that we don't, nobody says, what's the temperature outside? 376 fifths. No one says that, okay? But you would most likely see that decimal. And anytime C is a multiple of 5, because our denominator here is 5, that's why we're not getting any decimals. It goes in evenly. Okay, now if I go back to table, oops, clear. If I go back to table, you see it's gonna just remember everything that I told it to do. Although it's starting now at 23. That's because I had scrolled down to 23 in my table. If I wanted to jump all the way to 100, just to check that boiling point, I could start at 100, enter, 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 and then on the table, 100 is the 212. That's kind of cool, right? 100 is the
Is there
212.
3 with a /5 in a row and then 1 and then 3 more with /5?
There's gonna be,
Order of-
yeah, there should be 5 in between, right? Because we're counting by 1, and then you go from 100, the next multiple of 5
4.
is 105.
Okay.
Okay,
So
good
there's a
question. Just pattern.
pattern.
Yes. Okay, I kind of was thinking, I mean, this would be more along the lines of Fahrenheit and Celsius, but I was kind of thinking maybe we should just like go over again this idea of how did we even create this equation, right? And this is something you'll see as well. So we said, okay, if this one is C for Celsius, here is F for Fahrenheit. I'm using the independent variable, the dependent variable. My y-intercept is here 0, 32, because 0 degrees Celsius up to 32, that's that ordered pair. And wow, that's on the y-axis. Or in this case, I'm using F in place of y. This is my Fahrenheit scale, but this is what we call the y-axis here. The other point was Celsius is 100, Fahrenheit is 212. And so this other point right here would be 100, 212. And then we were like, okay, that's a straight line. Actually could go in either direction, because you can have negative degrees, you can, right? You can have go below freezing. Yeah, absolutely. So we put arrows on the end. We were talking about how the slope here is the rise over the run. And the rise is how much I go up. The run is how much I go over. So I'm going up. You were mentioning before, you said, oh, if I went up from 32 to 212, how did I find how much I went up? My slope is the rise over the run. How did we find the rise? Does anybody remember what we did? We subtracted, right? 212 minus 32. And then to find the run, you were noticing we went from 0 to 100. So that would be 100 minus 0. And we calculated the slope to be 180 over 100, which was the same thing when you divided it as 1.8. There's the 1.8. Or if you reduced the fraction here, I'm just going to clear this out. If we took that fraction 180 divided by 10, by 100, sorry, there's the 1.8. But if I want that as a fraction, do you remember how I convert between fractions and decimals? Go second F to D on your calculator, there's F to D above the table button. And that will actually give you the reduced fraction right there, which is 9/5.
Can't you,
Yeah,
can't you also press the double arrow button and it converts back?
yes,
Oh.
yes, this double arrow button will do that as well.
Oh,
Yes,
so every time you tell me something and I know
Yeah.
something else, I'm all, wait a minute.
yes. Okay,